In April 1986, President Ronald Reagan ordered the U.S. military to execute Operation El Dorado Canyon, a direct retaliatory airstrike against Libya. This report outlines the intelligence that triggered the strike. In the early hours of April 5th, a bomb gutted the Labelle Club in West Berlin, killing an American infantryman. Electronic surveillance intercepted messages definitively linking Muammar Gaddafi's regime to the explosion. Planners selected 5 specific targets. Looking at the operations report, the primary objective was the Bab al-Azizia barracks in Tripoli, the command center of the entire Libyan terrorist network. Hitting these heavily defended compounds nestled within a city required a surgical approach. To minimize civilian casualties, the military needed a pinpoint nighttime strike, which dictated the use of a very specific aircraft. That aircraft was the F-111 Aardvark. Equipped with advanced terrain-following radar and laser targeting systems, it was the only jet in the Air Force fleet capable of flying low and fast in total darkness. But the Aardvarks were stationed thousands of miles away at Royal Air Force Lakenheath in England. To reach Libya, the strike force needed to cross mainland Europe. But in a massive diplomatic roadblock, both France and Spain refused to allow U.S. military aircraft into their airspace. The direct path to the Mediterranean was completely blocked. This map displays the effect of that denial. A 1,200-mile flight through France became an agonizing 6,000-mile detour, skirting the Atlantic coast and wrapping around the Iberian Peninsula. This broke standard fuel math. A fighter simply cannot hold enough fuel for a continuous 13-hour mission. Overcoming this obstacle required military planners to invent a brute force logistical strategy that had never been attempted in actual combat. The Air Force utilized a mother tanker solution. They deployed dozens of massive KC-10 and KC-135 tankers to act as a moving airborne gas station that would escort the fighters all the way to the target and back. The scale of the refueling was staggering. To make the distance, some F-111 pilots had to carefully guide their jets onto the boom of a tanker up to 10 separate times during the flight. To preserve tactical surprise, they operated in total radio silence. The fighters turned off their electronic identification equipment, flying in the radar shadows of the larger tankers, so that observers would only see a routine flight of heavy cargo planes. Tucked dangerously close beneath the bellies of the tankers, the fighter crews watched the sun set over the Atlantic, matching speeds through the darkening clouds using only hand signals and external lights. This aerial armada functioned as a masterpiece of extreme logistical engineering, effectively hiding a heavily armed strike force in plain sight halfway across the globe. Approaching the Mediterranean, the F-111s detached from their mother tankers and initiated a steep descent. To stay beneath Libya's air defense radar, they leveled off just 200 feet above the water. At 700 miles per hour, the cockpit became a place of sensory overload. The sky was overcast and the moon had set, forcing pilots to rely on instruments to avoid plowing into the pitch-black waves. Technical failures complicated the approach. One jet's radar altimeter malfunctioned, while an unexpected 23-mile-per-hour headwind threatened to throw off the mission's precise timing. A fraction of a second of distraction or a single severe gust was enough to drag a multi-million-dollar jet into the sea. For all the billions spent on logistical planning, the mission's success now rested on the raw nerve and razor-sharp reflexes of the crews hurtling through the dark. As the lights of Tripoli appeared, the city's defenders began firing blindly. Terrain-following radars blared incessant fly-up alarms, and threat receivers screamed in the pilots' ears as Libyan surface-to-air missiles began hunting the jets. The crews had an incredibly tight window to strike. With exactly 18 seconds to the target, pilots initiated a crushing 4G pull-up, released their laser-guided bombs, and aggressively rolled away to escape the blast radius. But the friction of combat took a toll. As the operational summary details, equipment failures and intense fire hampered the attack. Several aircraft had to abort their runs over the water, and one crew misidentified their aim point, dropping bombs near the French embassy. The fog of war degraded their precision, turning a flawless logistical plan into a messy, chaotic fight for survival over a heavily defended city. The raid exacted a tragic cost. The report confirms F-111 Karma 52 failed to cross the coast, claiming Captain Paul Lorentz and Major Fernando Ribas Dominici. Surviving crews, running on fumes, endured an agonizing 6-hour return to England, mourning their lost wingmen. Upon landing at Lakenheath, the physical exhaustion was absolute. After 13 hours in the cockpit, one junior pilot wordlessly handed the chief of staff his 2 full pittle packs just to shake his hand. Despite targeting errors and the loss of Karma 52, Operation El Dorado Canyon damaged all 3 primary targets, crippling Gaddafi's terror infrastructure for months. By executing a 6,000-mile detour despite the refusal of its allies, the United States proved it possessed the logistical willpower to strike a pinpoint target anywhere on the globe, regardless of closed borders.